Well, you can't have elections without the numbers. Let's bring in the numbers man, Channels TV's in-house data information consultant, Babajide Oguso. Well, thanks for joining us tonight.
Actually, for me, it's always great to be here.
Yeah, and you've been calculating a lot recently. So the results of the presidential election reveals voter turnout was less than 50% to our dismay in many states. So how much progress have we made in the presidential electoral system?
I hope we'll have enough time to answer all these questions. We've made some progress, but again, progress depends on how you want to measure it. Listen carefully to these three things. What was voter turnout 4 decades ago? I'm talking about 1979 during the presidential election. You had 16.8 million people that came out to cast their votes. Well, it was 16.8 million out of 37 million eligible voters. In other words, 1 out of 2 that were eligible to vote came out to vote in 1979. Let's fast forward 40 years after. 2 weeks ago, we had the presidential election. 27 million people came out to vote, but that was out of 103 million eligible Nigerians. In simple terms, Amachi, it means that only 1 out of 4 eligible Nigerians came out to vote. Compare that to 4 decades ago when 1 out of 2 eligible Nigerians voted. So if we look at it in that perspective, we see that we are not making too much progress, and that is the evidence we have today.
Yeah, I would have asked if voter apathy may have had anything to do with it, but Saturday's elections are coming up. You have your expectations. What are they?
I'm hoping we're able to improve voter turnout during this governorship election. But we need to keep an eye on 7 states that there will be no governorship elections. Now, if you look at the Southwest, we're not going to have governorship elections in Ondo, Osun, and Ekiti State. If you look at the South-South, there will be no governorship election in Edo State and Bayelsa State. If we look at the Southeast, there will be no election in Anambra State. And across the 19 states in the North, the only state where we will not have governorship election will be in Kogi State. So the expectation is, even though we are not going to be having governorship elections in these 7 states, in the other 29 states, the community and ward leaders start doing more door-to-door canvassing, not necessarily to canvass for a political party, but ward leaders now have to be able to canvass people to come out to vote using door-to-door campaign. We also expect that INEC should make use of voter participation ambassadors. I'll give you an instance. You remember when INEC sent that tweet 3 weeks ago that elections were not going to be cancelled? If an artist, for instance, like Wizkid or Davido, that has 3 times the number of followers INEC has, that message will get around faster than if INEC relies on just itself and some of its other ambassadors. So we need to also be able to look at INEC encouraging and getting more voter participation ambassadors that will be part of this process for Saturday.
And hopefully those ambassadors will vote on election day.
Hopefully those ambassadors will vote, but we also need to now also keep an eye. Yes, one of our eyes should be on those 7 states that there will be no elections, but we also need to keep an eye on those 10 states.
But why do we need to keep an eye on those states where there will be no elections?
Because those states are within zones that potentially have low voter turnout. So possibly there could be a contagion effect, whereby because there will be no elections in those states, there could be poorer voter turnout within that zone. So we have one eye on those 7 states that we will not have governorship elections, and we expect that INEC also does a lot more within those zones, and then we then have those 10 states that whatever happens, we are guaranteed to have new governors. Now, those states are the states that not just INEC, but the security agencies need to focus on those states. Well, now, what are these states? If you look at the Southwest, it is guaranteed, Amachi, that there will be new governors in Lagos, Ogun, and Oyo. If you look at the Southeast, it is guaranteed that Imo State will have a new governor. Now, those 2 zones will be keenly contested. In the Northwest, Zamfara is guaranteed to have a new governor. In the North Central, Kwara, Nasarawa State guaranteed to have a new governor. And in the Northeast, especially because of all the security concerns there are 3 states that are guaranteed as well to have new governors: Borno, Gombe, and Yobe State. So while we have one eye on those 7 states and those zones that there will be no governorship election, we need to keep our eyes open on those 10 states that are guaranteed to have new governors, because those states potentially could be violent. Those 10 states potentially could be trouble zones. Those 10 states will be keenly contested. And clearly, the security agencies and the electoral management body has to be more prepared to manage events within those 10 states.
And that would be your advice for them on Saturday, right?
Oh, yeah, that will be my advice. That certainly will be it. But let's remember that if we do not vote, we lose the right to complain. That was what was said by a wise man. And so, wherever you are, you need to come out to vote because your vote is your right to complain.
Babajide, thank you so much. Hopefully we won't complain, or rather we'll have rights to vote, to complain next week after
Whatever
the elections.
happens, you have to vote as well.
Don't forget to go out and vote on Saturday.
On
Thanks
Saturday.
again for joining us on the news at 10.